Good evening, Palace fans around the world. Welcome to the Red and Blue Review. My name is Jel Holyoke. Nick Philpott is away driving buses and scaring passengers. Tonight, a panel of misfit fans will be discussing yesterday's 1-1 draw with Newcastle United at Selhurst Park. They consist of home and away games fan Ian Noble. Evening, Ian.
Good evening, Jel.
Our New Zealand correspondent, all the way down there in New Zealand, Tim Richards.
Evening, Joe. Evening, everyone.
And some of you guys, if you've been here for a while watching us, will remember Ben Agmamoni. He's back, back to give his views. Evening, Ben.
Evening all.
Good. Right, so what a show I've been thrown into. Tonight we're going to cover the HF report, reportedly being investigated by the Met Police over a banner that they put up in the Homesdale yesterday. We're going to try and cover Steve Parish allegedly heading a meeting regarding FFP Mark II after the takeover of Newcastle United by a wealth fund of the Saudi state. Yesterday's refereeing performance by Premier League new guy Darren England. Mr. England has 9 years refereeing experience, only 15 games in the Premier League, in which he averages nearly 4 yellow cards. He had a bit of a nightmare, but we'll discuss that in a little bit. So let's talk about, we'll just have some stats first, Ben. What you got for us?
Right, so we took on Newcastle, and with the stats are as following. So shots at goal, 15 for us, 4 for them. Shots on goal, 3 for us, 2 for them. Possession stats, 75 for us, 25 for them. Passes, 665 for us, 214 for them. Pass accuracy, 86 for us, 64 for them. Fouls, 13 for us, 9 for them. Yellow cards, 3 for us, 4 for them. Red cards, none for either. Offsides, 2 for us, 3 for them. And corners, 3 for us and 7 for them.
Yeah, I mean, those stats are quite comprehensive. And then in a second, we're going to get the game info off of Ian. But, I mean, that seems like a pretty comprehensive 1-1 thrashing. Ian, give us a brief synopsis of the game, and then we'll just pick it apart, mate, bit by bit, as we usually do.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Look, I can't remember a game at Selhurst where we dominated so much and didn't win the match. I think before we get into the game, Jill, can we just talk about the selection? Is that all right?
Yeah, of course.
Before we kick the ball, I think a lot of fans were pleased to see Michael Olise start. We've been screaming for Olise to start for a few weeks now. He's come off the bench, in particular the Leicester game. He came off the bench and made an impact. He came off the bench at Arsenal and made an impact with an assist, and everyone was pleased to see him start. Interestingly, at the expense of our talisman, Wilfried Zaha. So when I saw that Olise was in and Wilf was benched, I didn't mind too much, because I thought, do you know what? Let's see what Olise can do. So it was a side that was sort of expected, maybe with the exception of Wilf being omitted from the starting 11. But, I don't know what you would do to change it, because both Christian Benteke and Edouard both scored at the Emirates, and therefore, both deserve to retain their place, I think. We started brightly enough. We had possession. We've talked about the possession already. The match of the day highlights, interestingly, I said the other week, I can't remember which game it was now, that they gave us about 48 seconds on match of the day. They exceeded themselves this week. It was 1 minute and 22 seconds of first half action. And Newcastle did what Leicester did. They turned us around. I don't like that. I really don't. And I think it might unsettle the players a little bit. I mean, they're all professionals, so I don't think it makes a huge difference. But I think the majority of people inside Selhurst Park like to see us attacking the Homesdale in the second half. And Newcastle turned us around. And I don't think we started that well. I mean, there was the incident where Anderson had his foot up high and got a yellow card for it 7 or 8 minutes in. They put the ball in the box, and I think a better team scores from that. I think, they got on the end of it, and it was I'm going to call him Mark because I can't say Gooey very well. I'm going to, all the way through, I'm going to talk about Mark. So if I say Mark, you'll know it's my number 6. So Mark clears off the line, and as I said, I think a better side scores there. So I think we get let off a little bit with that, and it's a half where we go in at 0-0, and you think, how on earth have we not scored here? And I think that the best moment came when Benteke hit the post, of course. And just a word about Gallagher first. Gallagher, I thought, had another great game yesterday. Just his engine is fantastic. The high press, runs and runs and runs. And Gallagher, on a couple of occasions yesterday, including the goal, which we'll come to later, assisted the assister. And in the first half, we saw that for the first time. He assists the assister. So he wins the ball well, passes the ball out to Elise, who whips it in for Benteke. He's only got to hit the target. I think he tries to be a little bit too clever with that one in the first half. It's the post. And it should have been a goal. That should have been 1-0. But we go in, Jel, at half-time, all square at 0-0. And I think, most of us during our half-time cup of Bovril or whatever we enjoy these days are thinking, it's just a question of time in the second half before we open them up. If we carry on like this, we'll win this easy. So that was the thinking at half-time. Pretty positive, buoyant. And, we're looking good for our 0-0 at half-time.
Yeah, I thought we were all over them, and completely agree with you with the clearance off the line from Gay, from Mark. But yeah, like you said, a better team, a sharper forward scores there. My own opinion is, as soon as that sort of, I'm amazed that the Anderson challenge didn't go to VAR, because I think had have done that, I think he would have gone, because he didn't dip his head down, massive foot high, kicked him in the head. I mean, he went down like he died, but nonetheless, these days you're going to get red cards for much less than that. So I did think that Anderson was lucky, even though it wasn't. Well, no, it was a bad challenge. If it was the other way around and one of our players had got kicked in the head 5 foot up in the air, then we would have been screaming. So I can sort of half understand. Well, I can't understand why it didn't go to VAR, but yeah, I mean that was again ridiculous stats. I want to come to Benteke after this, say that he should have scored when he hit the post in the first half, Benteke, because. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll do it now. Now we've done it. So I thought that, firstly, he looks amazingly fit. He looks hungry, and he definitely looks to be buying into the Vieira way, the Vieira philosophy as such. He seems to be building, and even just after such few games, and Edouard came in very late. It was a late buy for us. He seems to be really coming into a bit of an understanding, which is really, really good to see. I mean, the stats that I just did on him yesterday were, so he hit a post. He had a shot of a foot left of the post when he was clean through. Should have done better. It was akin to the Ayew miss a couple of weeks ago. He scored a goal. He hit the bar. And then he had a goal disallowed. The goal disallowed, again, nothing to do with him. It was all about Mark Gay grabbing, trying to swap shirts. I mean, again, it's right at the end of the game. It's another 2 points that we've given away. It was harsh, but again, had it been one of our players trying to get his shirt ripped off his back, then it's very, very frustrating. But getting back to Big Ben, not just Big Ben in here, but the Big Ben Benteke is. You guys know I have been a huge critic of his over the last 3 or 4 years. He looks as good. I think he's playing as good. I think that was his best game for 3 years for us. He just looked busy. He's closing down was good. He looks. I really, really think he looked good. I'm hoping the guys in the comments were thinking much the same. But Tim, what we got in the comments, mate?
Yeah, indeed. Joan Wells, for instance, Benteke is getting better each week. I think there's no doubt about that. Paul Bristow has been asking, has it been our decision to play towards the Homesdale in the first half for the last 2 matches? I think we've covered that. No, it isn't. Let's see what else. Joan Wells again, nobody heads the ball better than Benteke, and I think finally, he's starting to show that. Ryan, hello Ryan Hinton. PV has got him firing. Again, it echoes what Jel was saying, that I think Benteke is a player who is really buying into what Patrick Vieira is trying to get the team to do. Jason Green, I think it was that. Mr. Philpott, I don't know who he is. He's supposed to be working. Surprise, surprise. Elise, Benteke, Edouard, Zaha, and Eze. How do we all play them? This is a scary lineup. Chris Bashford, hello. Tekers is a liability, seriously. So that's another viewpoint, all valid. Matty Cannon, Tekers is able to play different. The team, Tekers is able to play different. The team can play different with Vieira. This style suits Tekers to a T because he's getting crosses in, which is what we've been saying. Paul Glance, Big Ben is chiming like the Big Ben bang on almost. Try saying that after a few vodkas. But yeah, like you said, most people, a lot of people, me, I'm the same as you. A lot of people are seeing the difference in interest. I will just say, I saw an interview with Patrick Vieira in one of the papers or something, where he was talking about Benteke, and he was saying the work he's been putting in, the fact he didn't go back on international break, and he stayed and he did extra training with Vieira. They were going through stuff, and he said it's making a difference. You can see it, which only means that he's buying into the new ethos.
You're right, completely. I've already touched on it.
Tekers was great yesterday, actually.
Yeah, no, he was. Ben, I've already touched on it a little bit. You was at the game yesterday, so I've already touched on this referee. I know, having just go on Twitter and put Darren England into Twitter, it's hilarious. Tweet of the day from me came from Fred 2. He says more like Darren Saudi Arabia, the way he looked like he was paid off yesterday. He had a nightmare. I've not seen anyone at all to tell me different. Just from inside the grounds, tell us what the crowd was saying, because obviously you're surrounded.
So for me, I usually when we lose games, there's a friend of mine who goes to there. He sits in Homesdale, and we meet up after, and I usually end up having a ref rant. So he's used to it, and I say it's not an excuse, but that guy was appalling. It reminded me of the Brentford game. Every time they dropped, they got something. And it was the same thing. Every time they went down, he gave them literally everything, to the point where they started singing, well, again, I've never really seen the crowd where you get 3 sides of the crowd all singing at the same time, "You're not fit to referee." And then at one point, another chant came out, "How much have they paid you?" I was thinking, look, just take your shirt off and put a Newcastle one on. So we know we're playing 13 people, because it was ridiculous. It was just shocking. I mean, I spoke to somebody who's like a youth coach, and he says he does referee. I said, look, honest opinion here, and he's a Rangers fan who just happens to live in South Norwood. I said, honest opinion here. You said you're a ref. Could give me your assessment of that guy? And he said he was appalling. It was rubbish. I don't know where he came from, but wherever he came from, he needs to go back, because he was useless. I mean, and we've had our share. I know we've had the Clattenburg era, but this guy took it to a whole new level. If I had to grade referees 1 to 10, he's -10 and beyond. It was awful. Awful. That's how bad he was. And normally, I get it. Refs are allowed to make mistakes, but not for 90 plus minutes. I mean, the classic was, from, I think, to the 12th minute, they were wasting time. Okay? So you book a guy for wasting time, which means we should have 95 minutes, but on the 94th minute, you blow up. What the hell's that about? Because that got mentioned on Twitter as well. It's like, no, if you assess his game, he just need. And the other thing I would say is, when a ref's had a bad game, because one of the yellow cards we picked up was Wardy. okay, because there was an incident that happened and he mouthed him. And you know Wardy doesn't mouth nobody. So you know when Wardy's having a go at the referee has been, excuse my French, shicer.
Ben, I didn't think Wardy reacted too badly. He squared up to someone.
He did square up to someone, but I think if you actually watch it back, he squared up to that other person that was taking the mick because the ref was allowing it. But I think in the process of that, words were said to, because the ref was close by not doing anything. And I think it was just like, yeah, here's a yellow. Because it was nonsense. I mean, you talked about the Anderson thing. For me, okay, he was going for the ball when he jumped. Now, the guy who managed to get him a yellow card is like 5'6". And he puts his head towards the ball because Anderson wasn't trying to kick him. He put his head towards Anderson's foot, which is why he got the yellow. So it's like, oh my God. And I know decisions can even us about this, but this guy was rubbish. I can't emphasize it enough.
Ben, can I come in here, mate? Because you're in danger of having a heart attack now doing that because you're getting very excited about it.
It's better out than in. That's why I'm having this little rant here.
There was one occasion in the first half where Gallagher struck the ball. I think he was shooting towards goal, and he winded one of their players, and it took him down. It must have really, really hurt. Okay, so we got possession still, but he blows the whistle to go back to their player. It's not even a head injury.
No.
And he gives the ball to them.
No.
I couldn't believe what I was watching. It wasn't even a head injury. The bloke just got winded. He must have been hurt. But nevertheless, you don't stop the play. You only stop the play if it's a head injury. They're the rules. I just thought he had an absolute shocker as well. He really did.
At the end of the game, I know he booked a Newcastle player for time wasting and then actually blew up early. He didn't allow for allotted time that was allowed by the fourth referee, which was a real shocker. Anyway, I think we've pretty much discussed that he was terrible. Like I said, he's only been a referee for about 9.5 years. He's come from non-league. He's been a Premier League, stage one referee or whatever they call them, for only for 15 games. But like I said, 40 odd yellow cards. He's averaging about, or 50 odd. I mean, he's averaging about 4 a game, and he's only shown 1 red card. So, but anyway, let's not let his trophies, but it's the way of the second half, Ian.
Okay. Yeah, second half. We score on what? 56 minutes, something like that. I think it was. Techers, and as I said in the little while ago about Gallagher, and Gallagher's tenacity to win the ball on the edge of the box here was second to none. He had about 3 players around him. At one point, he was on the deck. He got himself up, and he passed the ball wide left to Tyrick Mitchell, who just proved what a good player he is, attacking wise as well as defending by getting the ball across. And you can see it, if Benteke doesn't get this, Edouard's queuing up to get it as well. And Elise is behind him. And it was a great header. He had a lot to do still, 1-0. The 1-0 didn't last that long because literally 9 minutes later, they got up the other end. They get a ball into the box, and it was a free kick, I think. And Wardy, if you watch it, he gets a little shove in the back by a Newcastle player. Completely unnoticed by the referee. Wardy plays on, obviously. His only option is to head it out for a corner. And my mate sitting next to me is going, that's a soft corner. I said, it's not a soft corner. He had to put that ball out for a corner. Ball comes over. We don't quite clear our lines very well. Someone gets a head on it. You've got to say Wilson's goal. If you're a neutral watching that, you're going to applaud that goal because it was an excellent finish. It was an excellent strike. 9 times out of 10, that goes into row Z. It doesn't find the back of the net, but he's executed that very well indeed. I just wonder whether Jimmy Mack, you can see there, he's sort of protected himself. Jimmy Mack, if he throws his head in, does he do something to put him off a bit more? I don't know, but it'll be a brave man to do that, of course. And, they get the equaliser. Undeservedly, really. I think in the commentary on Match of the Day when we scored, the commentator said that, Palace a deserved lead, and it was a deserved lead, but it's almost an undeserved leveller from Newcastle. They get back into it. And then we have the chances to to score another goal. And in fact, we do score another goal, don't we? And this for me, the goal that was chalked off. I know it was a foul. There was a shirt pull by my mate Mark in there, but I don't think if there's not a shirt pull, I still think Tekkers wins the ball and he scores. But you just don't know that, do you? So technically, I suppose they're right, but at the time it really hurt because nobody saw it in the ground. The ref missed it. Everyone else missed it. No Newcastle players were actually complaining, I don't think, until they showed it back on the big screen. So they're showing it back on the big screen, the goal, and so I think a lot of Newcastle fans started going, oh, look, he's pulling his shirt. And it was at that moment that VAR intervened and matey Darren England goes and have a look at the screen. And you just know as soon as he starts walking over to the Arthur Waite and looking at that screen that he's going to rule it out. You just know that, don't you? But I missed a lot of that because I was jumping up and down too much, celebrating the goal that wasn't. So, I hate VAR sometimes. I really hate it. It spoils the game. But if it's the other way round, I'm thinking, oh, thank goodness for that. We got away with one. And I think Newcastle will be saying to themselves, look, we got away with one there. We really did. So I didn't quite get the substitutions. All right, Luca went off. I think Luca should have gone off earlier. I think Luca is our weakest link at the moment. I know he's got the armband, but I think he's our weakest link. And, I wouldn't pick him in the next game. I really wouldn't. We'll come to that later, I'm sure. Obviously, great to see Wilf off the bench, but Elise was causing problems as well. I mean, Wilf did okay, but Elise was getting the ball across. I didn't mention the other chance that Benteke had. In fact, there were two, weren't there? One was an Elise cross where Tekkers hit the bar. Again, unlucky not to score there. The other chance when he gets put through one-on-one, he needs to hit the target. He really does. And he was cross with himself. And I think he said earlier it was akin to the Ayew miss in the Brighton game. He just needs to hit the target there and score. So, we had plenty of chances. On another day, Tekkers gets a hat-trick. It wasn't to be. The goal he did score, the second one, ruled out, probably rightly. But at the time, it felt really, really hard to take. And Newcastle, they'll be delighted with that point because 75% possession, there's no way they deserve that. And you can't help thinking that it was very definitely 2 points dropped at home again, which is becoming a little bit of a feature, isn't it? Becoming a little bit of a story that is the same old, same old. It's happened now at least 3 times when we could and should have taken all 3 points and didn't this season. So
you're absolutely right. And the thing is, Ian, with those 6 points, which in all honesty is only, 4 of those points is 10 seconds of football. Yeah. And we're only talking about a few minutes at the end of the Newcastle game. Had that goal, had Gay not pulled the shirt pulled, I'm sure we would have seen that out and we would now be sitting 6. We would have, we'd be above Man United.
Yeah. Let me just come back on the shirt pull again because I want to make a point that I forgot to make just a minute ago. VAR is supposed to overturn clear and obvious errors, right? Okay. The referee misses it in real time. In real time, you get shirt pulling all the time, don't you, in box? You see it every single corner in the Premier League. When you slow it down, it looks bad. But is that clear and obvious? That's the point I want to make. Is it really clear and obvious? I don't think it is clear and obvious. Therefore, I don't think the goal should have been ruled out. If that's the other way around, I'm arguing the other way, probably, because I'm red and blue tinted specs. But I want to make the point. It's not clear and bloody obvious, is it? Do you know what I mean?
No. And I think up until I'll come to you in a sec, Tim, up until the VAR was called, I don't think you saw many Newcastle players, any Newcastle players calling for the shirt pull. I don't think you saw, I'm pretty sure most of the people, the fans weren't calling for it. I think, like you say, it's part and parcel of being in the box, of being pulled and pushed and grabbed hold of. And, it's, but the thing is, it's this clear, it's a very blurred, VAR is its own thing. It evolves when it wants to evolve for the good. And then it just pulls out the bad. But in all honesty, when I saw when I saw what they were calling for VAR for, because they do check every goal now. Every goal's checked, and if there is anything wrong, because the referee can't see anything, and if the linesman's on the other side and he can't see it, in the line of it, there were players in the way of that shirt pull. There were, 3 of our players especially. So if he didn't see it, I know it's sort of clear and obvious error, but it was clear and obvious to anybody when they saw, to the point where it wasn't just a shirt pull. It was actually, a little bit more. He'd have ripped it off his back, and it did stop him jumping. It did stop him from doing anything. So for me, as soon as I saw it, I knew that they weren't going to give us the goal. But yeah, it's annoying. And again, I just saw a thing go through. I'm going to come to you straight away in just in a second. That Chris Brown said we dropped 8 points. I can't remember where the other 2 have come from, but he said we should be sitting 4th. But 4th
it was
or 6th,
the Leicester game, wasn't it? Leicester was the other one, but we were 2 down against them. So
yeah, I mean, I thought we were lucky being 2 down. Anytime you come back from 2 down, you get a point. You've had a touch. I mean, you can win it, but sure as hell you can lose it in a few seconds against Vardy and people like that. So I thought that we deserved that single point. But anyway, team, what's going on in the chat, mate?
Just before that, I would say on VAR, I'm a fan of VAR, the technology. I think it's great, but what it's done is it's purely moved the inconsistency that we were seeing in referees and the decisions they were making. They've now just offloaded that to the referee who's judging the VAR side of it. So again, it's not the technology, it's the same people that were making the inconsistent and bad decisions in the games, and now I'm doing exactly the same thing, but in the VAR room, wherever they sit. However, like Paul Bristow, the term clear and obvious is a media invention and is not included in the spec for VAR. Stephen Isles, in his interview, the Newcastle caretaker manager said that they deserve the point. Don't know what game he was watching. Nick Philpott, show some love and welcome back to the producer Greg Ellis. Get back to driving your bus. Mark Callahan, hopefully PV will drum some game management into the team. Sometimes we need to do the ugly part of the game, like Newcastle did, to get us over the line. Maybe something in it. Maddie Cannon, positive for me. We are playing some great football. If we had got the results we deserve, we would have been top 6. We just need the results we deserve. Very true. I think we'll come on to that. A lot of other comments about the referee that I won't read out. Comments about Newcastle. John Knox, the only thing that may be the one thing that may be the day better, that the seaweed got better. Or battered. I think something's wrong with his keyboard there. But yeah, a lot of comments that agree with us, which is nice to see. But yeah, a lot of interesting ones.
Okay, so I alluded to it earlier, and I don't want you guys to see this as a bit of a rant, but I've really had to sort of spend a fair amount of time to address this what happened yesterday. So the HF put a banner up yesterday, and I'm not going to go into completely. So it listed terrorism, beheadings, civil rights, murders, censorship, and persecution, and then there was a figure there holding a sword, pile of blood, a little bit offensive, if you're looking at that. But I just, on the other side of it, and I can see where they're coming from, because they released a statement saying that. But if they do get done for, or the Met Police are looking at it. So this is going to be my take on it. So the terrorism, just very quickly. Look, we've got terrorism. We've had terrorism in the UK. We've been involved in foreign terrorism for hundreds of years. The only thing we have, beheadings. That's not been anything to do with a governmental side of it. Civil rights abuses. Amnesty International have listed health immigration policy, domestic abuse, and housing. That's what Amnesty International said about our government in our country. They list that the HF murder. MI5 literally have license to kill, kidnap, torture, and a loan limits policy that was uncovered by 4 human rights groups in January 2021. Censorship. You can be censored for anything in this country. Most people are. Ian Noble went on Twitter, said something about a Scouser, was censored by Twitter. It's silly, it's small, but it doesn't matter. But Ian had loads of followers. He followed loads of other people. He's just a normal member of Joe Public, was censored by a company in America, in the UK. Ridiculous. Persecution, hostility and ill treatment. This is what persecution comes under in a Google heading, and I've put a little piece on the end of it. Hostility and ill treatment, especially because of race, political, or religious beliefs. And that sits nicely alongside the discrimination of women and the LGBTQIA2+ community. So, you know, it's all right having a banner, right, that sits where potentially 1 billion sports fans will, because it's gone around the world. You know, people will see that and just go, oh, look at the Palace fans. They're standing up for this, that and the other. But, you know, we need to go just a tiny little bit further than that. The UAE, Abu Dhabi, back Man City, human rights abuses, including human trafficking. 90% of workers in that region are foreign, and the UAE, right, uses Emirati law. Executions can consist of hangings, stoning, and a firing squad. I never saw any of, never the HF, I've never stood there and held a banner up about Man City. Qatar, the home of the upcoming World Cup. A report by the Guardian newspaper says that since 2010, 6,500 more than South Asian and African workers have died building stadia and infrastructure. Qatari money props up PSG, a club that the HF have an affinity with. Roman Abramovich, all the money from Chelsea, denied residency by Switzerland in 2018, deemed to be a threat to national security and Swiss reputation, allegedly withdrew his investor's visa in Britain in 2020 and obtained Israeli citizenship, giving him 6 monthly free entry into the UK. And that's on the Chelsea fans website. So, you know, listen, if you're going to have a go at Newcastle, and there's one more thing I need to say, again, some of you guys will know about it anyway, you need to start thinking about the background, because a lot of people like me who know loads of stuff, this Newcastle business, this could have been us. This really could have been us. There was one of our friends, there's about 30 or 40 people that know this. One of our friends literally had a phone call with Parish, and all he wanted was a bullet point, an A4 bullet point about the pros of Palace. And that was going to go directly to the man that is funding the Saudi Wealth Fund. I promise you that it's absolute. There are people far more bigger than me involved in Palace that know this is the truth. This is not BS. I swear to you. This could quite easily have been us. We could quite easily have been sitting there richer than all the clubs in the Premier League put together. And then what would people have been saying? Holding that big banner up? I don't think so. When we could have Mbappe coming down playing at Selhurst Park, or a massive 60,000 seater stadium somewhere with 30,000 people in it. But I'm just saying, you know, sometimes it really is a case of what's good for some is not good for others. You know, I'm pretty sure that wherever you look at big money around the world, there is always bad behind it. It really is. I'm looking at Teresa and she's saying, Jill, do you think the banner was wrong? Listen, the banner, I can see where everyone's coming from with the women's rights and what goes on around the world. But honestly, politics, we've said it, for everyone says it, you need to get politics out of football. It's so touchy. It's really strange. There are going to be podcasts that will swerve this like the absolute plague for the fear of hate that could come this way or their way. And you know, it is difficult. It is a difficult call. But you know, Ian, what do you think?
I think that the sentiment of getting the message over about the fact that these things that are tolerated in Saudi society are clearly unacceptable everywhere else is the right message. I think some of the graphics used on the banner were a little bit unfortunate and were probably a little bit unnecessary. But I can understand why they were there, and clearly they've got some creative people within the HF. I certainly don't think it's racist in any shape or form. It's saying that the people that have bought Newcastle United, are they fit and proper to own a football club, given the association with these behaviours in the country from where the money originated to buy the football club. So in a way, I feel a little bit sorry for Newcastle, because you're right, it could have been us, it could have been anybody. But I was having a drink before the game yesterday in Croydon with some Geordie boys, and these lads are a bit like me. They've been going home and away. They supported their club for 50 odd years, and they're broad Geordies, and they're having a great time. And I said to them, "What do you think of this money that's coming in, and what do you think of it all?" And they said, "Well, look, if it means we're going to win trophies, then we're good with it, really, because we've had 50 years of misery, apart from the Keegan years, which were good for them. It's been pretty crap supporting Newcastle, and they're a big club. So, you can't begrudge them that. And time will tell whether they actually do go on to buy and sign the players that enable them to compete at the top of the game in the English Premier League and the Champions League and everything else." But, I think the point about the banner, the points were well made. It's just the way it was, the graphics probably were a bit unnecessary. That's probably what I would say. And it certainly wasn't racist. And I'm glad we did it in a way. I'm glad we did it.
Tim, we're going to come to you in a second. Ben, your thoughts on the banner?
I didn't really have any thoughts on it. From where I was, I could barely see the thing, so it was only afterwards. I think for me, it's not an attack on the fans, because ultimately they're the ones that are going to suffer from this, because it'll just go the way of the other clubs that have had a lot of money pumped in, where suddenly everyday fans can no longer go to the ground because the cost will go up. Yes, you're going to win things, but then you lose that atmosphere. Because I remember watching videos of a lot of Liverpool fans that say that Anfield is not what it used to be. You get there and there's banks of cameras because they're all trying to record moments rather than watch a game. And at the moment, we don't do that. And the other thing I picked up on is a lot of other fan groups are saying, "Look, can we borrow that banner?" And I don't really have a strong opinion. And for me, it's not so much that they've been bought over and taken over and Mike Ashley has gone, but it's like the other stuff that's gone on there, they're going to turn a blind eye to. Because for me, it also ties into this nonsense that, okay, I'm going to just put it in there. The nonsense about biannual FIFA World Cup every flipping 2 years. Come on. And you just know it's just about money. How much money can we get? How much money can we take out of something? And then who loses in all of that? We do. Because suddenly, we become legacy fans, which is nonsense. Without the fans, like we found out last year, football was a weird animal. You need fans there because it's just intrinsic. I've only been going 10 years, but my God, do I go every time. And I keep on going. Yeah. And, batterings are watching us get battered by Doncaster 4-0, and I'm behind the goal and watch every goal go in. But I went back the next week and the week after because, at some point, it's going to change. It's going to change. And I think the only thing I would say about the banner and the takeover is it breaks the monopoly of the top six, because it got to a point where you knew that the Carabao Cup was going to be won by one of six clubs, the FA Cup's going to be won by one of six clubs, and with the exception of what Leicester did that year, there's one of four clubs is going to be champions of the Premier League, and it gets a bit boring. The thing I really like about football is the unpredictability. Okay, that's the one thing I love about it. Yeah, you can see a game and you think, "Oh my God, this team is going to get battered," and then they don't. Look at Watford yesterday, and that's the thing. That's the thing I love about it all. And so for me, maybe they could have presented some of it a bit better. But as you know, they're going to put a banner because they've had banners for Abramovich, they've had banners for Man City, they've had banners for Premiership, and they've done it every single time. And people go, "Oh," but you know what? We're the only ones that come out and say, "No, hold on, guys. Come on." So did I find it offensive? Did I think it was racist? No, because the other thing I thought was interesting was where they asked their fans not to wear the headscarves and thingies, because that's not thingy, because they might find out.
They've changed their mind, haven't they?
And then they didn't, because actually they didn't. But for me, it's part of the game. So long as you're not out there yelling at racist and homophobic abuse, because I didn't find out banner racist at all. I think the points they were making, they were trying to get, because they knew it would be picked up and beams. The thing I find interesting is that what are the police going to find in that? What are they going to cite them for? What are they going to cite them for?
This is the no. Listen, I agree. I mean, but the thing is, if we don't, the report is the police have taken a report and they will investigate it. But it's something that we need to touch on. But like you said, Ben, the HF have had a banner for a lot of things. For me, the biggest one was the pigs in a trough. An actual dig against the Premier League. That was huge, but that's the Premier League. This isn't Newcastle fans' fault. I know what they want. Mike Ashley, they've been held down with money. I know how it feels. As a Palace fan, I know how that feels. You get a marquee signing a year if you're lucky, and then average signings, and you have to hope that those average signings come good. Luckily, some of ours have, and that's I think, like you say, and the monopoly of trying to get the monopoly broken means that you're going to have someone come in with multi billions. I was again, while I was writing this today, looked at it. Abramovich is owed 2.2 billion euros. What's 1.7 billion pounds? Chelsea can't afford that. They literally can't afford that. So just really quickly, Tim. So I'm going to come to you right now. Ryan Hinton in the chat. Newcastle fans were waving money at Palace fans when they scored. That would have been hilarious. Would have been. Do you remember who was the Harry Enfield character? Loads of money. That would have been hilarious. Tim, let's have some out of the chat.
Yeah, just before I go on to that, I've been thinking quite a bit about this, and I think it shows quite poorly on the Premier League. The only reason the Newcastle it was allowed to happen was because the Saudis decided that they would stop the Premier League streaming service that was costing the Premier League a lot of money, and that they would pay the Premier League a very large fine. And all of a sudden, the takeover went through. And believe me, I agree with you to a certain extent, Jel. As a Pakeha, as in non-Maori living in New Zealand, quite regularly we are reminded about the Treaty of Waitangi and what the Crown did to Maori back in the last century or the century before. But for me, it shows the hypocrisy of the world we live in, where blind eye is turned to certain things to pacify certain big interests. You look at the Middle East and what's been going on there for years, how blind eye is turned to what happens there. And I think it's the same thing with Saudi Arabia. I mean, yes, there's history involved, but Saudi Arabia, all the things on that banner, they are still doing it on a regular basis. So I think there is a lot to it. But it's quite interesting in the chat. There's been quite a lot of strong comments, one way and the other. And that there are some that I can't read out. Like Mark Callahan, I think the richer some clubs get, the more corporate they become. The Super League will rear its head again, and the big boys will break away. It's inevitable. The owners will want more than just the Premier League. So again, it comes down to money. Buddha Boy, he's quite strong. No disrespect, Joe. So I think he's on the other side. Paul
he turned around and said, FFS. He said, give it a rest. That's what he said. But listen, you could. I'm just highlighting. It'd be remiss of me to not pull up a banner that's literally gone around the world. We are a fans football show, and I can't just go on and go, oh, what about that, without doing homework. But I also need to say that quite literally, if the HF get pulled up, just say that this goes through as a racist act. That the police do, and nothing so weird as the police when they want to be. But I've just highlighted everything that I highlighted, apart from beheadings. This is the British government. The British government do a £6 billion a year deal with the Saudis for arms. We give them arms. The Saudis arm other people who we're out we're fighting. It's a very, very vicious circle of the distribution of wealth. It is. Go on.
Sorry, there's just two more comments, and I've got a question. Again, Ryan Hinton every fan wants success. And Jel, you're right. Money has been cleaned up in football for years and will continue long after we're all around. Joanne Phillips, I think it was brave and the right message to show the banner the country is barbaric. The last thing I want to say or ask about it is I missed the very start of the game. Did the Newcastle players take the knee before the game started?
Yes, they did. Yeah, they did.
And
Everyone did because Wilf was on the pitch.
Yeah, but then that's the hypocrisy of Newcastle, their players making a stand, which I agree with, bending, taking the knee for Black Lives Matter, yet their owners won't allow same-sex marriage, oppress women, all that kind of stuff at home. So there's the dichotomy of it, to my mind.
I mean, guys, you could say, you could argue that the fact that the Saudis have now bought Newcastle United, and in this country, same-sex relationships are absolutely fine, and women have equal rights and all the rest of it. Could this not influence them to change the way they behave back in Saudi Arabia? I put it out there. I might be way off the mark. Listen, a couple of people, Jason saying, can we talk about the football now? Andrew Adams says, Jel for Labour leader. So we've got a few interesting comments in there. But I do think we need to get back to the football, Jel. So if we can, mate.
Well, yeah, I mean we can, but it's a conversation that quite literally had to be, it had to be had. I want to go back to the team. This Greg, if we can just stick the team up, because like we say, Wilf was fit, and Elise was chosen to get a full game as such, or a proper start as such. I think that was well deserved. I think his cameos of coming on and changing games well deserved. I'm not sure Edouard does fantastically out on the left hand side, if you ask me. I think he's very much a central striker. But Big Ben's playing so well at the moment in the middle. I don't think you can. I don't think you can change that. I think everyone at the back picks themselves. Gallagher picks himself without a doubt. I think for me, MacArthur picks himself. And Luke has not been playing, as badly as some people would like. But at the moment, like I said, I think that team picks itself, and it's we were a shirt pull away from another 2 points yesterday, and again with almost as with the exception of one or two changes, we was another 6 points or another 4 points better off, with the same players. So I'm pleased that with the football that we're playing, I'm pleased with the players that are stepping up. We are hopefully trying to get the squad mentality. Wilf coming on. I'd like to have seen him being given the ball a lot more, because obviously fresh legs. I mean, their defence were absolutely prime for just running at for the last 20 minutes. They were on there. We battered them. Like I say, we thrashed them 1-1. And I think that if the ball had been given to Wilf a little bit more, and just say, look, just go and be Wilf. I think maybe. I can see whoever Facebook user is. Luca's got to be dropped for Hughes. I mean, that's a pretty decent call. But I'm not. Luca's more of a baller than Hughes. Hughes is more. Whenever he's played against us, all he's wanted to do is just smash people up in the air, which I love, by the way, because that's putting him and MacArthur together in the middle. Gee, they're going to terrorise people. But I really, Ben, you going to keep Elise in the team?
From now, it just reminds me of what's his name when Wilshere played for Arsenal, and also Michael Owen, where you got a talented young player, and the danger is you overplay them, and then they just pick up injuries they never fully recover from. So if you remember when we signed him, he had a back injury. So I think it's about just managing his fitness and gradually building it up. I mean, I was happy he was on the pitch, because there were moments where he was doing stuff and you're like, oh my God. I mean, there were bits where there was a bit where there'd been a ball out to my left, so I'm in Whitehorse, and it looked like it was going out for their throwing. He jumped up, both feet off the air, controlled that ball, brought it down, and passed it forward. You know, and there's another point where he's up in their corner, and he's got like 3 players around him, and he's somehow just got past him and then whizzed the ball across. So he's a baller, and I just think it's about managing our expectations of him and his fitness, and also he's young. Because the thing that's happening is, I mean, you know, once Wilf's up to speed, because remember, he's just come back from an injury, being sick, so there's no way he's going to be firing on all cylinders. And I was happy he was on the bench. And so once they're all firing on cylinders, it's going to be, how does someone put it on thingy? Source TV, Source Football. Because, you know, you can't double up on 4 players. You just can't. There's going to be spaces made.
No.
So, yeah, for me, it was like, okay, you take him off. I can see why you're doing that, because you don't want to overplay him, and then he picks up a long-term injury, and then the question then becomes, why'd you keep playing him? So it's about managing that, and that's what a manager's there for. And the other thing people aren't picking up on is, if you look at our squad and our bench now, and you compare that to last season and the season before, it's a damn sight healthier, and it's a damn sight stronger as well. Because before, you look at the bench and you go, who are we bringing on that's going to change the game? And there'd be no one. And now you know you've got at least 1 or 2 or 3 players on there that can come on and do something. It's just, you know, it's unfortunate we keep turning into draw specialists, but that's gonna change once it clicks, and that's what I'm looking forward to. Right.
Yeah, it's seen Wayne Hetherington's comments go through. I mean, who'd you take out? So, I mean, with Eze, in all honesty, after last season, he's one of the ones that literally has to, when he's fit, he's got to walk back into the team. For me, he has to. Who'd you take out?
I think it's a massive, massive problem. It's a nice problem to have. But, you know, you're right. The short answer is I don't know at this moment who I would take out when Eze's fit. But I think just looking at next week up at the Etihad for a start, I think Elise, for me, needs to start again, because he started so well. You know, he could have had 2 assists easily yesterday with those crosses he put into the box. So I want to see Elise keep his place. But, of course, Will's got to come back into the team as well. So much as I'd hate to say it, I'd probably drop Edouard to the bench next week. Now, that'll create some controversy, because on Match of the Day, they were talking about how well Edouard and Tekers played together. But, you know, why can't Wilf get into that position as well? Or do you drop Milivojevic and don't bring in Hughes or Cheki Kute, but ask Gallagher to play deeper? He's a midfielder. You know, could he play deeper as well? So you've got Jimmy Mack and Gallagher in the middle, and then you could accommodate Edouard and Benteke and Wilf and Elise. I don't know. These are just thoughts at the moment of mine, and that's what it's about, isn't it? Opinions, talking about the game and who do you pick. One thing I always come back to is that Patrick Vieira knows better than all of us. He sees them week in, week out, you know, day in, day out. So he'll pick the best team for Manchester City away next week, that's for sure. But it's a massive problem to try and fit Eze in as well. But it is a squad game now. It's you know, it's not 11 players that are going to play on a Saturday. It's 14. And it's a question of getting that right 14 and making the right choices. And we could debate for a long, long time about whether he's made the right subs yesterday even. You know, Zaha for me, yes. Who came on for Milivojevic? Remind me. Quickly, somebody.
It wasn't Matata, was it?
No, it wasn't Matata. He came on for Gallagher. It was Schlupp, Jeffrey Schlupp. Yeah, Schluppy on for Milivojevic. Yes. Jean-Philippe Mateta for Gallagher. I didn't get that one at all. I'm really not a Mateta fan. Apart from his back heel at Brighton, what has Mateta ever done for us? I'm really not sure. And I don't even understand why he's in the match day squad, let alone on the pitch. So when he did come on, I'm thinking, why is he on the pitch? When Gallagher, unless he's got a knock, and I wouldn't have taken him off if he hadn't got a knock, and I would have brought someone else on, you know. So I just don't get that one at all. But that aside, I think Patrick Vieira's subs have been good, you know, apart from that one exception.
Okay.
Who's going to City, Teresa's saying? Who's going to City, Teresa? I'll see you up there, my darling. I am definitely going.
So this is the thing. I'm going to come to you again in a minute, Tim. and you can answer what we've talked about, but also just keep your eye on the chat. So the overriding thing for me this season has been that we have Michael Elise gets the ball and he goes forward. Gallagher gets the ball and he goes forward. Wilf gets the ball. Generally, when he gets the ball, goes forward. But we've got players. Edouard picks the ball up, goes forward. The days of us, the ball, the players we've got at the back, they can go sideways as much as they want. I want to see them doing that because the more that they do that, the more assured I am that we're only going to make the odd mistake, but need that practice of trying to be the ballers and involving the goalkeeper and playing it across the back. And we've been heavily punished trying to play out from the back over the last couple of years, and it's cost us a lot of points. I feel our players they're more assured. I think they're more confident. I think with having Gay and Anderson, who are without doubt are ballers anyway, but the players around them they feel more secure, that there's going to be less mistakes, and also that they know that they're going to get the ball. Anderson, he can ping balls for fun to people. So what I like is the overall fact that we are team going forward instead of going sideways and backwards, as we have been over the last 3 years, with the odd exception, first half at West Ham, the game that ended up, but that was one of the best 45 minutes I'd seen for ages. But Tim, tell us, pick the bones out what we've been talking about for the last 5 minutes, and then as soon as you've had a little go at that, give us some. I'll have a little look in the comments as well.
Yeah, I've got to say, in the 45 years plus that I've followed Palace, I never remember us being in a position where we have as good a team as we've got, as much strength and depth. And for me, the biggest thing is, I know there's a lot of new players, but how well they've gelled as a team and how well you can see there's a team spirit on the pitch. Even the ones that have only been with us for like 9 games, when you see them playing, they're playing for each other. They're putting the effort in. They're going forward. And I think a lot of that is down to Patrick Vieira again and his staff. And they're just so relieved, especially the players that are still there, like Wardy, like Wilf. You see the way they're playing, like re-energized. And I think it's so exciting. It's making me move back from New Zealand. But to see it, yes, we've got points. Obviously we would have liked those wins. But you look at this, it's only been 9 games. 9 games with a complete new manager and backroom staff. So many new players injured. But like Jel said, it is going to take some time. There's so many of those games we've drawn this year, we would have lost last year, or we wouldn't have had any hope. So you've got to be positive. And it's great having this question about who's going to play, who's not going to play, who's going to drop. But it will also test those players, because they're going to have to understand, like Wilf, I'm not going to get a game every week. Like Jel says, when Ezzy comes back, what do you do? So I think it's really exciting times ahead.
Yeah, no. Again, I make you right. The other thing, just going back to what Ian said, I'm not against Gallagher being taken off in the 78th minute. Listen, that guy runs his absolute off, and we're talking about protecting the younger players, and he is. Although he's had a fair bit of Premier League experience, you literally cannot run. But he'll be burnt out 2/3 of the way through the season, and the important part for us, people are forgetting about this, is that we've got a few players going away for Akon, and also there's a lot of World Cup qualifiers and everything. It's a busy time. We are going to have our players rotate, whether we like it or not. Ian.
Yeah. Talking about the start of the season, how well we've done, really. I read somewhere, probably on Twitter, that we've got 9 points so far this year, right? The same opposition last season, Brentford aside, we got 5 points. So I think, it just puts it into perspective, really, doesn't it, a little bit about how well this team has actually done in these games, notwithstanding the disappointment of the draws that we've been talking about already. So, the squad, the depth is really, really important, and it will, it's going to be needed when the going gets tough into the winter months and African Cup of Nations, as well as you've already said. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, give us a bit
Yeah, I
more
just
from
want to
the.
I just wanted to say, Teresa Baker, unlike Man United today, can we laugh at Man U for 2 minutes? Anytime you want to. I think that's brilliant. John Phillips, plus the youth team have players that may come through. That's something else we haven't talked about, the academy, what's coming through, what we've got there. Nick Philpott, again, get back to your bus. How about a cheeky bid to bring AWB back? Clearly not going well for him in Manchester. Which is, Renshaw Barker, yes, to Elise, but he needs to go. He needs to get the ball over a bit more. Nigel Croucher, Ian Noble, swap Fulham for Brentford, and we are plus 1 point. Colin Squires, I followed Palace for 52 years, and apart from the team of the 80s, we've never played good football like we are now. So, all very valid comments.
Indeed. Okay, guys. Well, listen. Every now and then we get messages from people that listen to the show and ask for requests. And this week, Nick was approached, via a message. James Morley, and he said that he watches the show, and he did say his dad was absolutely Palace mad, and will we give a shout out for him? Because it just means a lot to him. So I sent James a message sort of later on this afternoon. I said, I don't want to give you, if you've taken the time, we will going to give you the time. Give us write something down. I'll read it out. And this is what I received from James. He said, my dad Terry Morley was born on the 12th of October 1951 in Sydenham. When he was about 10 and moved to Forest Hill, and that's where his love of Palace came from, with his friends who went to games, and he joined them. He would take me along when I was young until a month before he died. He passed away back in November 2012 after 2 years battling several types of cancer. He was such an avid fan and a bit of a geek when it comes to spreadsheets. We know someone like that, Ian Lyons. He said he would spend nights on a computer researching players and compiling lists of stats. He was doing this until in the early 2000s when his computer crashed and he lost 75% of his. He then bought a new computer and started all over again. In 2009, 2010, he somehow heard that Ian King was writing a new book, the record 1905 to 2011, and he volunteered his research to the book. As it was so detailed, Ian couldn't refuse. If you've ever read the book, the stats section is all my dad's work. He always said that Jim Cannon was his Palace hero, and it's a shame that Jim's not on because, Jim's going to be, he is a regular panellist for us now. He said Jim was his hero, and always said that if he'd only played one match, his debut match, he said he would have always been a Palace hero for the actions he did in that game. He mentioned the way that Jim kept Peter Osgood quiet and scoring the second. As for the club, he hadn't done anything really, apart from be a lifelong supporter, dedicating a lot of his life to research, watching games and driving my mum with Crystal Palace memorabilia. I know my dad passed away 9 years ago, but I've only recently got into podcasts and know 100% he would have been an avid listener and he would have tried being on the show as well. I hope this helps. Thanks, James. And I'm sure, that he would have got on here as well because we really like people that want to come on and talk about Palace. We've said forever, anyone wants to come on, we'll have a chat with you before. Make sure you're not a raving lunatic, that you can sit in front of the camera and speak. You don't have to be brilliant, but you just have to have a love for Palace. And, I really in that, James. So big up to you, big up to your dad. And it, like I said, people send us stuff like this because it's interesting. And going back to the book, unless there's a mention in the book, no one would have ever known about that for all them stats. But amazing. Tim, last minute or so out of the out of the chat. Tell us
Yeah.
what's going on.
Matty Cannon, I think there's some very true words here. And what we all have to think about. How quick has our team changed? We must all remember it was only the beginning of the season, around 5 weeks before the start. We had no new manager and an ever-aging squad. Look at what we have now. Depth of squad, game changers. Sorry, it's just moved. Game changers on the bench, every player really. Unbelievable. Steve Parish and Doogie have done a great job here. Also look at players we have coming through the under, such as Rakisaki, Banks, etc. Future is bright, very bright, red and blue. And I think that basically, in a few words, is a perfect sentiment to what it is for Crystal Palace these days. A lot of positivity going through. Compare this to last year. You remember what it was like when we were seeing comments coming up? Paul Glance, 60 years supporting, but I ain't coming on your show. I talk sense. Very true, Paul. You wouldn't be welcome. Daniel Garlick.
He would do. He's a really mate of mine. He's a good lad, Paul, but he can't help himself. If you think I swear a lot, Jesus. He lives in Spain now, and he rang me I spoke to him this afternoon. He said it's 26 degrees, and I'm going down the beach. So I don't want to talk to anyone that's been on the beach all afternoon. Just really, really quickly, in the comments, Man City, what do you reckon the score is going to be at the weekend? Ben, how do you think we're going to get on against City?
To be honest, I'd be happy if we went to Man City and just got a draw. I'd be okay with that. Whether I see that happening, I don't know. I can't see Lightning striking twice and us going up there and spanking them. But if we come away with a draw, I'm good with that.
Tim.
3-1 to City.
Ian.
It's gone quiet.
Ian.
Okay. Oh, did you? I didn't hear you. I didn't hear. And I was on the winners' coach.
Yes.
I was on the winners' coach coming back when we beat them 3-2 when Townsend scored that worldie. I also was at the 2-2 last time we were allowed in the stadium. Manchester City haven't been great at home. They only beat Burnley 2-0. They drew with Southampton 0-0. I think we'll win. I'm going for a 2-1 Palace win.
Okay, well, in the Theresa Baker 2-1 Palace have already got a tenner on it again. She said 2-1. Gary Hilton said 2-1 City. Daniel Garlick 2-1 Palace. John Knox 3-1 City. Paul Holden 3-0 to us. Oh my God. John Phillips said 2-2 draw. Jason Green said 3-it 2-2. Paul McNamara, Obi 3-1 City. So I think we've got a sort of a mixture of rose tinted glasses and no, I'm joking. A few of us that think we might better nick something up there. We're playing well enough, but in saying that, there's the teams are handing out hidings. So hopefully we don't become part of that with the so-called big and they've scored a few goals this weekend, don't they? Just to be honest. Right, folks. Everyone in the chat, thanks for joining us. It's been really interesting. I think we've covered subjects that a lot of people want, and it's a fair assessment of the game. I think, like I say, we thrashed them 1-1. Hopefully, we can turn the corner and get in the results that I think our play deserves. It might not start next week, but I'm sure that it will get better. And me going for the 8th or 18th prediction at the beginning of the season, we're playing and the way we're all enjoying it. I think the former is more of a chance than the latter. So, gents, Ben, Tim, Ian, thanks for joining us. Thank you to Greg for producing behind the scenes. Every time we've needed something, he's stuck it up on there, so you guys get to see something a bit better looking than our ugly mugs. We will see you sometime soon. Probably Phil Pott, if he's mind you saying that, he might not be. I think unless he gets a shift change, I think he's driving that bus. But listen, guys, thanks for joining us. We appreciate your comments. Get on the rest of the social media if you need to. Get on Twitter, tell other people about us. And anytime you want to join in, contact us. You know, we're on Twitter, we're on all the social medias. Get in contact, and if you think you're good enough, you might get on. Thanks very much, and good night.
Good night, guys.
Cheers all.